Back to teach at MIT,
Yeah.
the students knew that 6 years before that I'd sat in their seats, and so every now and then when we'd end class early, they'd ask questions about it. And I still remember the first time they said, "What are some differences between UK and MIT?" And I told them, I said, "Well, for one thing, if you're walking through the student lounge on Monday morning, they're not talking about basketball. They're talking about doing something different." To really take out a competitor, start a new company, or they could build something better than somebody else. But secondly, they didn't go to MIT expecting to work for somebody else all their lives. I said, here you all have a goal of go to college so you can get a job with an IBM or a Hewlett Packard. But in their case, it's they want to go to college and create jobs. And I said, that's the difference in the attitude. And they feel that sooner or later some of those bright people that they go to school with will join with them, and they'll go out and start their own business, and they've done it. So.
And how about on the faculty side, kind of the differences that you see there sometimes?
You get inspired because you walk around and you see Amar Bose. You saw Doc Egerton, who was the father of high-speed photography. He started a company called EG&G, which was very successful. Was into time-lapse photography. You saw a guy named R.B. Adler who had started a semiconductor company for some of the early semiconductor work. And you just kind of heard stories about them all the time about how they got going and, how they started their companies and, how many students were now working in those operations. The story I tell is about when I was at UK teaching, we had a new dean to come to he was actually from inside UK, and he was promoted to dean. And so he knew that I was trying to start a company. He wasn't in my department, he was in another department. But he called me to his office the first day he was dean. And he said, tell me about this company you have going, and how can you have a company and still be a professor? And I told him, I said, well, if I was still at MIT and I didn't have a company, Dean would call me to the office and say, why aren't you doing something with the company? And I said, when I feel that it will take too much time so I can't do this job, I'll just leave, and which I did a year later. So at MIT, they embraced that. The other difference attitudinally was not just the faculty, and a lot of the faculty were either concerned or jealous, and I often say the ones that gave me the most trouble were the ones who worked a good 20 hours a week and then went out and managed their tobacco or sold their real estate, whatever. But mine effort was pretty high profile because I talked about it to all the students all the time. But also in the community, the difference you found was that in Boston you could go out and talk to Charles Goodhue about helping you raise $1 million, or Dr. Bose could leave for 1 year and he could put a whole team together to start his company, and then he could go back and teach. But when I tried to get DataBeam started, it took me 7 years to raise the money to get going because nobody understood what I was doing. But secondly, I didn't have people here who understood how to get a technology company going. I ended up with my marketing company being in New Hampshire. My law firm was in Palo Alto. A lot of the construction was done up in Ohio near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base of the circuit boards. We had to begin to create the environment in Lexington to allow you to easily start a company. And so that's one thing that I think has gotten better over the years.